Coming up on Bridge City News, Alberta's union representing healthcare workers calls the province reinstating parking fees a slap in the face. Vigils paying tribute to a Red Deer doctor brutally murdered are taking place tonight in both Red Deer and Edmonton. And the federal government announces that the border to the United States will be closed a little while longer. We will explain how long.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The Alberta Union of Provincial Employees says the government bringing back parking fees for everyone, including nurses, is a slap in the face to our frontline workers. The AUPE says our healthcare workers already have their hands full with the COVID-19 pandemic.
They don't feel appreciated by the employer, and this is just another add-on to that. So again, they're giving it their all. They're working hard for Albertans every day. They put their lives and their families' lives at risk by doing this. They don't hesitate to do it. Yet this is a response, like a response back from the employer that. So you've been there for a while, we've given you this offer for a while, but now we're going to put it back because it's been a while.
The province reported that 1,041 healthcare workers have been infected with COVID-19. That's an increase of 11 from Wednesday. The province announced that there were 84 new cases of COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. There are currently 1,036 active cases, including 45 here in the South Zone. Fortunately, close to 10,800 Albertans have recovered from the virus. Sadly, there have also been 221 deaths of COVID-19, including 21 here in the South Zone. Officials with the AHS say so far 801,360 coronavirus tests have been performed by the lab. Lethbridge City Council voted to keep Lethbridge EMS here in our city as opposed to outsourcing it to AHS dispatch centres currently operating in Calgary, Edmonton and Grand Prairie. Councillors say having the services here would save time and lives. BCN chatted with the Acting Director of Community Services, Greg Adair, who says there's a process a 911 call has to go through when AHS takes over.
One of the challenges we're going to have to overcome is when somebody calls 911 and the question will be asked, do you need police, fire, or an ambulance? If they say ambulance, that call will then be routed to Calgary. Calgary will then take the information they require and send out the ambulance. Where it becomes somewhat problematic is when that caller, who is now talking to a dispatcher in Calgary, says I need an ambulance, and the ambulance needs to be attached to a medical first response or one of our fire apparatus responding to aid in the medical emergency. That dispatcher in Calgary will then need to send the call back to Lethbridge, which of course increases the time of the call, the processing, which will mean we do anticipate this will create delays for that medical first response to respond out the door.
The province says it would save around $6 million annually by going through a centralized dispatch centre. An online petition by the family of a missing Alberta man asking to have his disappearance be investigated as a criminal case is gaining momentum. Marshall Iwasa was last seen leaving his mother's house in Lethbridge last November, and he's not been heard from since. Police are treating it as a missing persons case, but the family believes there's more to the story and a criminal investigation needs to be launched as soon as possible. Iwasa's burnt-out truck was found in a remote area of Pemberton, BC on November 23rd. The family says some items found at the scene did not belong to Marshall. Insomnia. It's something many of us deal with on a daily basis, not being able to get a good night's rest. Stats Canada says over 3 million Canadians suffer from this condition. Dr. Clayton Cogano with the Well Vitality Health Clinic in Lethbridge says when it comes to insomnia, the foods we eat can have a direct impact on our sleeping patterns.
Diet, eating a whole food diet, even looking into food sensitivities, that can create a ton of fatigue in people if they're battling the food that they're eating all the time. So it's important, again, to look into things and take a complete history, because what I find actually is clinically people that are coming in, they're coming in with bags of supplements and they're still tired. And it's not a supplement deficiency in people. It's a multitude of system failures that's causing it, and you have to figure it out.
Dr. Cogano will also discuss the causes and treatments for chronic fatigue. That is coming up in the second half of our show. Brian Shields of Lethbridge lost his battle with cancer on August the 8th. BCN's Loris Alexander discovered just how many people's lives were touched by someone who is fondly known around here as the Cockatoo Man.
I had just gotten my motorcycle, and he had this little group he had going on. And anyways, I introduced myself to him, and I had a Honda motorcycle jacket, and I was riding a Kawasaki, and he looks at me and he's like, well, at least you got the bike right. He loved his Kawasaki's and he loved green. That was his thing.
Another close friend reminisces about how they shared their love for bikes.
Laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night, and he would call, wake me up. Hey, I'm bored, I want to go for a ride, let's go. Look at my wife, ask her if it was okay. Go get on my bike, and we'd go wherever. We could do anything, just go down and get a drink or bag of chips, or we would throw 200 kilometers on that night, just being us, having fun.
On July 17th, Shields made his last appearance at St. Therese Villa, a supportive living facility.
We knew Brian was going through some treatments as far as last year. He had his kidney removed, and then he was going through dialysis. So we knew he kind of came and went through that, even through dialysis. So on July 17th, we thought, as far as we knew, he was better. He was coming back slowly and making plans, and I guess he wasn't.
Shields' death came as a shock to friends. Goodbyes aren't always easy, and today was no different.
I can't do it. No. It's too soon.
Just goodbye. That's all I got. I look back and I wish that I could have done one last ride with him, but it is what it is.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
The Fort Whoop-Up Interpretive Society will be putting together Whoop-Up Country Farm Days on August 15th and 16th. As Micah Quinn explains now, it's a great way to get out and experience agriculture and the feeling at the Old West.
Wagon rides are just one of the many attractions you can expect at the Fort Whoop-Up Country Farm Days, being put on by the Fort Whoop-Up Interpretive Society.
And then what we're doing this year that's a little bit different is we are going to use the wagons like this and do actual tours around the farmyard. So everybody will get a brief wagon ride, and as we go, we'll be able to talk about some of the items that are here and how they relate to our history. We can talk about wagons. We've got freight wagons, grain wagons. That's my personal interest, is collecting horse-drawn vehicles. People can learn about what the average farm family might have had for vehicles at their farm. They probably had a buggy, they might have had a wagon, and those types of things.
In honor of the 150th anniversary of Fort Whoop-Up, there will be a cannon firing.
And this is a replica of one of the original Whoop-Up cannons that was brought up the Whoop-Up Trail in 1871. The original cannon we will have on display tomorrow, and in fact on Sunday we will be resetting the original cannon wheels that have been repaired so that we can move it about.
Diggenstein says there's a long-term vision for Whoop-Up Country and the Fort Whoop-Up Interpretive Society.
Right now we are starting construction on a section of the fort as it would have appeared, and then from there that will blend into some of the buildings that can be repurposed and with facades and stuff to house some of the exhibits. We hope to have our fur trade and warehouse open within 2 years.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Some kids save their allowance to purchase things on their own. Others take on employment or do odd jobs. In this next story, video journalist Naveen Day shares us the story of a Piikani First Nation boy who got cracking on another idea.
Not only does he get an early start to the day, but an early start at entrepreneurship. Meet 7-year-old Odin Yellowwings of the Piikani First Nation. He runs a business raising chickens and selling their eggs.
When I got my chickens, I felt like just doing more than having chickens and feeding them. And when the chickens started laying the eggs, I decided to start selling the eggs to make money.
Odin is an avid gamer, and he uses the proceeds from his sales to purchase video game add-ons.
Shortly after his sales increased, he caught the attention of the Piikani First Nation.
It's pretty cool because, well, he's only 7 years old and he's already got his own income. He's got his own little business going. And right now he's in the process of getting a grant from, I think it's the nation here, to build him a bigger chicken coop. And me and my dad are going to start working on that once we get all the prices. And he's going to get more chickens, and then he'll be able to expand a little bit more.
Yellow Wings tells his son that if he keeps going the way he is, he can turn this into a permanent business. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
After the success of a first drive-in concert featuring Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani, the town of Raymond has decided to do another one showcasing a well-known band. Greg Robinson from the town of Raymond says that the first drive-in concert was such a big hit for fans that this concert will continue to help out with the tourism aspect of getting more people to visit the town.
To me, having Metallica is just, it's an amazing experience, particularly for a town, like the town of Raymond, for 4,200 people, be able to attract an opportunity to have something like that, even if it's on screen, you won't see the show anywhere else. It's not a rehash of an old footage or concert. It's all brand new material. It's almost as good as having them there. I mean, for us, this is a huge opportunity. It has those nostalgic hints, of throwback to when, for people like me growing up and, going to a drive-in as a kid. So there's always that sentimentality to kind of doing something like that.
The concert will feature a 40-foot tall screen, and you can enjoy the show from the comfort of your own vehicle. We are in mid-August now and still don't know whether or not there will be a CFL season. The league has proposed the idea of a bubble in a hub city like Winnipeg, but still have not received approval from Health Canada. They've also asked the federal government for a $30 million loan. Calgary Stampeders defensive lineman Derek Wigan says the players are still in limbo.
It's just more frustration. We'd like to know. Either way this thing goes, I understand there's a lot that needs to go into it, but it's just the fact of not knowing, uncertain, if guys want to go get a job, then, we could get a call the next day saying, yeah, we figured it out, this season's back on. It's kind of I think it puts a lot of guys in limbo, or even guys who currently have jobs that were supposed to end before camp, asking their bosses, okay, how long can I stay before a season were to start, or if it doesn't start. So it just puts a lot of guys in just a limbo.
Health Canada spoke positively today about the proposed CFL hub and bubble, but adds that they have not yet given a timeline. The city of Edmonton has stopped giving out COVID-19 mask exemption cards because they were being abused. The city dished out more than 6,000 of the cards to people who did not need documented proof that they needed one. The cards allow people to not follow the city's mandatory face covering bylaw. One city councillor called the card program an utter boondoggle. City officials say about 85% of Edmontonians are respecting the mandatory mask bylaw. As for our city, Lethbridge City Council will be doing a third reading on Monday of a temporary bylaw to make mask wearing mandatory in all public facilities as of August 24th. BC's Health Minister Adrian Dix says they will be hitting social media to get the word out to young people that they need to follow COVID-19 rules. A spike in cases recently has been attributed to large parties.
Part of that message is about private parties, frankly, which have been a significant source of problems. We have, of course, in our law and in our society, a respect for people's rights within their property. But I have to say this, that if you're thinking of organizing a party, especially one involving alcohol, where there's no specific limits on distancing that you're putting in place, you should not do so. And if you're invited to such a party by a friend, and they are not able to provide such assurances, then whether or not you consider the friendship is one question, but my advice is not to go.
A temporary exhibit is opening in Vancouver's Chinatown called A Seat at the Table. Officials with the Chinese Canadian Museum of BC says the exhibit is all about Asian immigration, history, and culture here in Canada.
The A Seat at the Table exhibition talks about the history of Chinese immigration to British Columbia. And as many of us may know, the history of Chinese immigration has been really marked with many incidents of racism and anti-Chinese exclusion that has made it very difficult for early Chinese immigrants when they first came to Canada. And so at this time, when we're thinking about these issues of racism in society and how we need to respond to it. I think one of the places we want to start through this exhibition is about education and sharing these stories with the public about some of the earlier experiences that Chinese immigrants have had in British Columbia.
The federal government announced that the border to the United States will remain closed to all but essential travel until at least September 21st. Public Safety Minister Bill Blair says the 30-day extension is necessary for the health and safety of all Canadians. The border restrictions were first imposed on March 21st. We have experienced a lot of heat so far this summer in southwestern Alberta, but fortunately, not many wildfires. Sadly, the same cannot be said for California. The state has been ravaged by wildfires as temperatures continue to soar.
So at that point, it was like, get out of my house, and then I got out in the street and kind of watched the fire come down the hill and up across the street, and it was kind of engulfing on both sides, and we were all kind of like migrating down the street, or retreating down the street as it could be, and then it just kind of rolled in and was taking everything as it kind of went down.
An hour went by. Nothing was going on, no planes, no nothing. I thought, this is getting out of control. All of a sudden, that little 10-foot section of smoke up there was wider and wider and wider. Next thing it was growing. The whole top was smoking. And then fire department started coming in, all the sheriffs, et cetera, telling me to get out. They were worried about me because I said I'm not leaving.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced that Israel and the United Arab Emirates have agreed to establish full diplomatic ties. It's part of a deal to halt the annexation of occupied land sought by the Palestinians for their future state.
After 49 years, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board and on a broad range of areas, including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security. This is a truly historic moment. Not since the Israel-Jordan peace treaty was signed more than 25 years ago has so much progress been made towards peace in the Middle East.
There's a group called the Free Burma Rangers who are offering help and hope to those under attack in Burma, Syria, and Iraq. David Eubank is part of that group. He says one of the most challenging missions of his life was during the Battle of Mosul, where thousands were killed and millions of people were displaced.
Former member of the US Army Special Forces David Eubank is seeking to inspire people to love others at all costs, following the lessons he learned from one of his most challenging ever missions to Mosul in Iraq. Eubank tells the story of this remarkable outreach in his latest book, Do This for Love, when he brought his family and ministry team, Free Burma Rangers, to one of the most dangerous places on the planet.
I remember looking out in the plains of Nineveh, which is where Mosul is, and seeing the black flag of ISIS, and then praying and saying, God, what am I doing here? I believe you brought me here, but we're jungle people. I speak those languages. We walk everywhere. We're now in Iraq, which is a mechanized Arab, Kurdish, Muslim region, desert. And I really felt God say to me, give up your own way, give up the Free Burma Ranger way, and just come help these people. So we brought my family, as well as our ethnic medics, from Burma, pastors, videographers, and we came first with the Kurds and up with the Yazidis on Sinjar Mountain. And then after ISIS was expelled from those areas by 2016 late, we went into the Battle of Mosul and started working with the Iraqi army, which was a great blessing. I learned to love the Iraqis. That's a huge gift.
Eubank remembers one of the most powerful moments of their mission, which received widespread media coverage when he rescued an Iraqi girl while coming under intense fire in June 2017.
I ran out saying, Jesus, help me. I grabbed her. I had to yank her off her dead mother. She's terrified. And who am I? And all she's seen is people trying to kill her. And ran back and using the tank as cover, backed up and called her Humvee and got out. And made it back to casualty collection point where my wife was waiting and cradling the girl, and my daughter was helping treat casualties. And that was a wonderful moment where I said, God, thank you. We could be part of something good.
Eubank concludes by sharing what he hopes people will take away from his story.
I hope when they read it, they'll care more about the people of Burma and the people of Iraq and the people around them, their neighbors, and that they'll really ask God, help, what should I do?
Peter Wooding for the Global News Alliance.
There's some great movies playing at the Mill in Lethbridge once again, including Inception and How to Train Your Dragon. With more, here's Len Binning with the Movie Mill Minute.
The unlikely friendship between a Viking adolescent and a fire-breathing dragon continues in How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World.
Wow. It's a hidden dragon world. Toothless, go introduce yourself.
A music executive on vacation is left behind, and he's tasked with signing the ultimate boys band, a group of scraggly fishermen ages 30 to 95 in Fisherman's Friends.
We're on a stag Would you mind backing up? My friend's only just passed his test.
It's a one-way street.
You're gonna have to back up.
Christopher Nolan presents Inception. We're bringing you the 10th anniversary re-release, which contains some bonus footage of his upcoming new film, Tenet.
He's hiding something, and we need to find out what that is. We gotta break out of here. Give him the kick! This was not a part of the plan! Wake me up! Wake me
A little bit of Hollywood right here in Lethbridge with those great movies. We had another beautiful day in our city, lots of sunshine and warm temperatures, and a wonderful weekend is shaping up. All of the weather details are coming up. A nice weekend is shaping up here in southwestern Alberta. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, we need to take advantage of these warm days and head to the lake or maybe to the mountains.
Yeah, the lake sounds like a great idea for this weekend, absolutely, as we could be starting to see those heat warnings come back into effect as early as tomorrow as we start climbing back up to that 30-degree range. Today, we were closer to the average high for August, which was 26. Overnight low tonight, 10 degrees. We could see a southwesterly wind at times gusting to 50 kilometers per hour. And then into tomorrow, as I said, we're going to climb into the 30-degree range. Lots of sunshine tomorrow, overnight low tomorrow evening, 11 degrees. So it could be a great weekend for camping because look at what's happening here now. We are even climbing higher. It seems like every single day is getting higher and higher from today right on through Saturday, Sunday's high 33 under lots of sunshine, mix of sun and cloud expected for Monday. 34 is the high, then 31 for Tuesday with mainly sunny skies. 29 is the high for Wednesday and 27 for Thursday with partly cloudy skies for both of those days. So as I was saying before, today on Friday, we definitely reached the average high for August right now. That's pretty average for this time of year. We are going to be climbing way higher than that this weekend and into next week. Overnight lows on average 11 degrees. The high temperature on this day was in 1994. It was 37 degrees. And the low temperature was 3 degrees. That was in 1955. Sun rose this morning at 6:21 a.m. and our evening sunset tonight, 8:51 p.m. So it could be a lovely evening to sit on your deck and watch that sunset. So what's happening tomorrow across the nation? Starting on the west coast, lots of sunshine. That's what's happening. 25 degrees the high in Victoria, 24 in Vancouver. 27 in Calgary with lots of sunshine. Should be a lovely day there. Edmonton could see partly cloudy skies with 22 degrees for their high. Beautiful day up in Saskatoon tomorrow. Sunshine, 24 degrees, 25 expected here in Regina with a mix of sun and cloud. Winnipeg could see a chance of showers tomorrow with a high of 24. And then as we get into the region here of Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, absolutely gorgeous weather, mainly sunny skies, 29 the high in Toronto and Montreal, and then the 28 degrees is the high for tomorrow in Ottawa. Now in Atlantic Canada, mix of sun and cloud expected in Fredericton with a high of 25, 23 the high for Charlottetown. They could see a possibility of some showers. Lots of clear skies in Halifax tomorrow, 24 is the high. And then over in St. John's, Newfoundland, 17 the high with mainly sunny skies. There you go, that is your Saturday forecast.
Today's weather highlights are brought to you by Mint Smartwash.
Refresh your ride in less time with more shine.
The Competition Bureau is investigating Amazon. It wants to find out if the company's conduct is harming competition. It'll be putting emphasis on what it calls any potential abuse of dominance. The watchdog agency plans to look at whether Amazon policies affect the willingness of a seller to offer their products at a lower price on their own websites or other online marketplaces. A huge battle is brewing over one of the most popular video games in the world. Both Google and Apple are removing Fortnite from their app stores after Epic Games introduced a direct payment plan that bypasses their platforms. Fortnite has 350 million users, and Apple has reportedly made more than $1 billion from it. Epic retaliated by filing an antitrust lawsuit against Apple, calling the App Store a monopoly. Cineplex reported a loss of $98.9 million in its last quarter. The company says the loss amounted to $1.56 per share. That compared to a profit of $19.4 million or 31 cents a share a year ago. Revenue was down $438.9 million to just over $22 million. The movie theater chain temporarily closed its theaters on March 16th because of COVID-19 and then began reopening them just before the end of the quarter. Fast food chain Freshii has reported a $500,000 second quarter loss amid the COVID-19 pandemic. It saw many of its restaurants close. The Toronto-based outfit reported a $525,000 loss for the 13 weeks ending June 28th. That compared with a profit of $433,000 in the same quarter last year. It reported an adjusted net loss of $56,000. That is down from a profit of $892,000 in the second quarter of 2019. Revenues were down $5.1 million, or a total of $2.4 million for the quarter. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 15 points on the day to finish at 16,514. The Dow was up 34 points to 27,931. The S&P 500 was down a half a point to 3372, and the Nasdaq was down 23 points to 11,019. Oil was down a cent to 42.23 per barrel. Natural gas was up 16 cents to 2.35. Gold was down 8.59 to 19.45.12 an ounce, and silver was down $1.06 to 26.45 an ounce. Wheat is at $213 per metric ton, barley's at $206, canola's at $4.84, and corn is at $226 per metric ton. Live cattle were up 8 cents to 110.23, feeder cattle were down 80 cents to 146.58, and lean hogs were up 68 cents to 53.03. The Canadian dollar was down slightly on the day to 75.37 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the federal government announced that the border to the United States will remain closed to all but essential travel until at least September 21st. Public Safety Minister Bill Blair says the 30-day extension is necessary for the health and safety of Canadians. Coming up, an interview with Monica Lowen from the Pregnancy Care Centre here in Lethbridge, who has some important tips for couples who are expecting. That Q&A with Jeanette Rocher is coming up.
Well, many people love the idea of having their own children someday and raising a family, but an unplanned pregnancy can potentially throw your world into a bit of a turmoil unless you get someone to come alongside to lend a helping hand. Today's guest is Monica Lowen, Executive Director of the Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Center. Welcome, Monica. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your organization, what it's all about, what kinds of help you provide?
Absolutely. Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Center has been operating in downtown Lethbridge for 6.5 years, so since 2013. And we are there to provide assistance to women and men facing an unplanned pregnancy. Anyone facing an unplanned pregnancy, like you alluded to, that can cause a lot of turmoil. And it's a big decision to have to make. And so we're there to provide a listening ear, to provide encouragement, and to provide information on options available, and then support after the decision is made, whatever that decision is, whether that becomes practical supports or emotional support afterwards.
Right. So can you update us a bit on how your clinic is operating now that we have COVID-19 restrictions in place?
Absolutely. So for the last, 7 weeks now, our door has been locked. So we have just 2 paid staff in the office. Our volunteers are checking on their clients from home, via text, via Zoom. We're still doing new client intakes over Zoom. The phone is starting to ring a lot more. Women are finding themselves unsure about a pregnancy, and they're needing to talk. So we are being able to do that via Zoom and video conferencing. Women who need practical support, so diapers, formula, things like that, we're bagging that up and we're able to hang that on the door to ensure good social distancing there as well.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We're all kind of doing it now, aren't we?
Absolutely.
All right, so I went through a crisis pregnancy myself, so I understand what it feels like, but maybe you can explain, what typically goes through the mind of someone who just found out that they might be pregnant? Is there panic and fear, obviously, fear of being left alone?
Absolutely, and I think actually the emotions would range as far as a spectrum, right? For everyone who finds themselves in that circumstance, it depends on their larger circumstances. For some women, they find themselves in that unplanned pregnancy and there's perhaps shock and surprise, but there's, okay, I can do this, I need a little bit of help. For others, there is absolute panic in that, what's going to happen? Are my parents going to kick me out? Is he going to leave me? How can I do this? So really the range is enormous. And that's the piece where we get to come in and meet her where she's at. Yeah. And just assure her that however she's feeling is normal and that's okay. And we're going to be here for her.
Right, or him, because you mentioned
Absolutely.
that you do
Absolutely.
counseling
Yeah.
for men as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when an unplanned pregnancy occurs, there can be a stigma, obviously, that comes with that. So your clinic provides a non-judgmental approach. What does that look like exactly?
Absolutely. Many of the clients that we see often, they're judging themselves pretty harshly already, so they surely don't need anybody else. We're there to just answer their questions, and we're there as somebody who's not emotionally invested in her situation. Often when a woman finds herself unexpectedly pregnant, everyone else around her has the answers. So if she has spoken to people, there's people saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, or else she's really scared to tell anyone, and she hasn't been able to speak about it. When we're not invested emotionally in her situation, we're not part of her day-to-day. So we're there to say, we're here for you. Whatever you choose, we're going to support you. We're not living her life. At the end of the day, we go home to our lives. She goes home to hers still pregnant. So we can't make that decision for her. We can't tell her what to do. And we surely can't judge her for what she chooses to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important too, especially when you have individuals coming in looking for counseling, particularly maybe post-abortion counseling and support, which
Absolutely.
you do as well, right?
We absolutely do. We are finding the longer that we're open that we meet more and more people, right? Everybody responds very differently after an abortion experience. And what we do find that our clients talk about is there's not a lot of space to talk about that. While the topic of abortion is far-flung across our country, there's a lot of attention given to it, and everyone has a really strong opinion, there's not a lot of space given to women to speak about their emotions after an abortion, whether that's relief, whether that is pain, whether that's confusion, whatever that is, often a woman will keep that to herself. But that is something that needs to be talked about. And so we're happy to do that and journey alongside her as she wrestles through those emotions and how that's impacted her life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, what age groups are you typically dealing with? Are the clients on the younger side, or do you get some more mature women coming in for help as well?
Unplanned pregnancy can happen to any woman who's able to conceive. So our youngest client has been 14, our oldest has been 43. Unplanned pregnancy really doesn't discriminate. So I would say our biggest demographic of clients would be between 19 and 24, the post-secondary age within there. But really, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm guessing that some of your clients decide to keep their child while others choose adoption. And is this something that you help with as well?
Absolutely. So when a woman comes in to talk about her pregnancy options, we'll give her information on all three of her options: parenting, placing for adoption, or terminating a pregnancy. And then whatever she chooses from there, we'll journey with her, whether that is the practical supports needed for parenting, connecting her with an adoption agency and walking that adoption journey with her, or being a safe place to land and to talk after an abortion decision.
That's huge. That is huge. Okay, so once the child is born, what kind of help is the mom usually in need of over the next number of months?
Again, it very much depends on circumstances. For some of our clients, it is very much a financial struggle. So then we're able to help out with baby clothes, with diapers, with formula. For others, they need emotional support. Perhaps they're doing well financially, but they're on their own. I've been a single mom. That is a hard, lonely journey. And so to have somebody to call and say, I'm so tired, or even have somebody to call and say, his first tooth came through. That's a big deal. And so we get to be that support as well.
And I see you even provide teaching for new moms as to what to expect in baby's first year. That's really important.
We do, and what we've found, so that's a 6-week class that we offer a few times a year. One of the biggest benefits comes out of that is community. And so we see the moms who do the class together, sharing phone numbers. They get together for play dates. They have built now a community of other moms, which has been fantastic to see.
Now, are these being done on Zoom these days, which you alluded to earlier?
We haven't done one quite yet, but we're getting into that time frame that it'll be just about time again. So we'll look at doing it on Zoom.
That'd be awesome. So what kind of feedback are you getting from people who come for your help?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another great thing about having been open as long as we have been now. We've had women come back. I think one of the greatest compliments we get is when our clients return the clothes that they've gotten from us, saying, you've helped us, we want to help you. We had a client actually just last week call and say that she wanted to make a financial gift. She said, I have some money that I want to gift to a charity, and you guys have played such an important role in my life, and I want to be able to gift this to the center. So it is amazing to have our clients refer their friends and their family to say, you have played a huge role in my life. I want you to also help my friends.
That is huge. So you probably get some individuals coming to your clinic to get some birth control items. Is this something that you deal with as well?
It's not actually. We are not a medical clinic at all. So for those looking for birth control, we'll refer them to go back and talk to their doctor or to a pharmacist. We do have some great conversations though, even around the topic of abstinence. Just to be able to say, hey, it is actually a healthy choice. If you're choosing to be sexually active, then you do. You need to be talking to your doctor, but what would it look like in your life to make a choice for abstinence?
Now, I understand that your staff is mainly volunteers. Are you looking for any more volunteers at this time?
We're always looking for volunteers, actually. So yes, we have 4 paid staff currently and about 25 volunteers every week. And our volunteers are the ones who see our clients, who do those options counseling. We also have volunteers who work in our clothing room, sorting donations, all of those things. So yes, that's something we're always looking for.
So all across the gamut.
Yes. Yeah.
There's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
And are you still accepting donations of new or used items during this COVID-19 time? It's kind of hard to donate these days.
It really is. And actually, we get a number of calls every day, and we are not accepting any new or used clothing right now, but what we are accepting and we are asking for is donations of diapers, formula, wipes, things that are brand new and boxed up that we can wipe down and safely hand to our clients.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Now, I believe that your facility is mostly funded by donations as a charitable organization. So how can people support you financially?
We are supported by our donor base, and we have a fantastic donor base here in Southern Alberta. I think we all know how philanthropic and how generous Lethbridge in Southern Alberta is, so we're so pleased to be a part of this community. But yes, COVID-19 has definitely messed with our fundraising this spring. We've had a couple of events that have been canceled, so any financial support that we can receive is very much appreciated. We are looking into some of the subsidies and things that are made available through the federal government, but we are getting ready to kick off an online fundraising campaign on Mother's Day. What we typically do is we have a baby bottle campaign where we hand out empty baby bottles to church congregations and they fill them with change. Well, we can't do that this year. So that is going to be entirely online. And so we're hoping that families are able to take part in that and that they'll be able to contribute financially as well as just learn about the center and hopefully learn what we do, but also how then to respond in grace to someone who is experiencing an unplanned pregnancy and just to have those conversations as families then.
So online financial donations, you're still accepting that through your website?
Absolutely, through our website. Go to lethbridgepregcenter.com.
Well, Monica, thank you so much for being here again. We just really appreciated you stopping by again.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be able to come back and give you an update and just to be able to share with your viewers what's going on in the center in the midst of COVID.
Do you need some health advice? Well, today's guest regularly sees patients who struggle with many different health conditions. Dr. Clayton Cogano, a naturopathic doctor in Lethbridge with Well Vitality Health Clinic. He also has training in conventional medicine with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science, Kinesiology, and 3 years of research on radiation and cancer at the University of Lethbridge. Dr. Cogano, welcome back to BCN.
Thank you for having me again.
Now, first of all, talk about your approach to finding solutions for the health struggles so many of us face on a daily basis.
Well, I guess in my office, I see a lot of different various things. You always want to try and get to the root cause of the problem when they come in, because a lot of patients that I see have been unable to figure out what's wrong with them. And so the very first thing that I want to do is sit down with them take a long time to go through all of their health history, all their medical history, all their labs. And you want to kind of sort through all of that and then figure out from there a plan moving forward. A lot of time it's history taking, and then further to that, further lab testing, either more in-depth lab testing or even just your general lab testing that just wasn't done. Often you can figure it out.
Now, you've said that in your daily practice, you sometimes come across chronic fatigue with a lot of your patients now. How common is chronic fatigue in today's society, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Honestly, people put too much on their plates. People are very busy. That's one of the main reasons for chronic fatigue. There's a lot of other reasons, but it is extremely common in my practice. Yeah.
What are some of the causes of chronic fatigue? Like you said, being very busy, not getting enough rest, perhaps?
Yeah, and it kind of compiles onto other things. When stress is elevated, often people aren't sleeping well. Sometimes people can have other issues like perhaps low B12, blood sugar irregularities, low iron. So it's important to, in my opinion, even thyroid issues. And sometimes thyroid issues can get missed. So it's important to test things and test things in depth. And look at the complete history of what's going on and what's been going on in order to figure it out.
So what are some of the effective treatments outside of B12 and maybe cutting some of the stress out of our lives?
Well, it completely varies. Like a lot of times, if someone's having trouble sleeping, you have to try and start figuring out why they can't sleep. If someone has, for example, a lot of stress, you can't just tell them to quit work if work is their big stressor. You have to try and figure out ways to work around it, against the grain sometimes. So the first thing is to figure out what's wrong. For example, if it was a cortisol issue, which tends to be the case with a lot of patients with chronic stress leading to chronic fatigue, a lot of times you will want to treat that with different vitamins and herbs. And then as that improves, you want to double check that you're not missing anything. Like perhaps that person also has low iron or their thyroid isn't working properly. You have to treat the whole person in order to fix chronic fatigue. Otherwise, you'll get a patient that gets about 50% better and then plateaus.
You know, other people I've spoken to as well in the healthcare professionals saying, focusing on God's word and meditating and breathing that helps a lot as well. How about certain foods when it comes to stress? Are there certain foods as well that you can eat that can really help?
Lifestyle change is massive. It is massive. It is also probably one of the most difficult things for me to help someone with. You can tell people all day long to do something here and do something there, but ultimately that's the hardest thing for me because it's up to them when they go home to do it. In terms of foods, yes, absolutely. Eating a healthful diet, eating a whole food diet, even looking into food sensitivities, that can create a ton of fatigue in people if they're battling the food that they're eating all the time. So it's important, again, to look into things and take a complete history, because what I find actually is clinically, people that are coming in, they're coming in with bags of supplements and they're still tired. And it's not a supplement deficiency in people. It's a multitude of system failures that's causing it, and you have to figure it out.
Dr. Cogano, many people also go through bouts of insomnia. They just can't get any sleep. What do you think causes that? Is it a big part of it is not putting your phone down when you go to bed at night?
Again, yeah, a lot of lifestyle changes. Yes, there absolutely is. A lot of people don't prepare for bed. They have their TV in their bed, they're on their phone. It's a social area now versus an area just for sleep. And so that is a huge thing. There's other reasons as well for insomnia, and insomnia it can be a tricky thing. Sometimes breathing issues like sleep apnea can create patients that just don't get a restful sleep or not at all. Anxiety is a huge thing, and that goes hand in hand with chronic fatigue, and chronic stress in general leads to a lot of anxiety. in which we can help a lot with. And then there's other things like, for example, different neurological issues with the brain. Now, unfortunately, we can't test those. So that would be like, for example, a slight deficiency of melatonin or a slight deficiency of GABA, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain that stops the busy signal. But we don't know if it's one or the other or something else. And so in those cases, we have to guess with different herbs, different vitamins to try and fix it. Often you can, but it takes a couple tries for sure.
You know, I remember years ago, my doctor told me, yeah, the herbs and the vitamins are good, but also at the same time, some warm milk. Is that still applied today, or maybe reading a book to help somebody fall asleep if you suffer from insomnia?
Oh yeah, well, I think the warm milk thing is more calming, right? I think. I don't know about that one, but I know that certain herbs like, chamomile tea is really calming. Rosemary is very calming. Passion flower root specifically, you can drink it as a tea, you can take it as a supplement. It just makes you calm. It doesn't necessarily put you to sleep, but it helps get your body ready for sleep.
Ever consider using CBD oil or capsules as a treatment for insomnia?
Yeah, CBD, it's a fairly new thing, especially since the legalization process. A lot of doctors are now delving into more research on it. Some of the research is promising on CBD for quite a lot of things, neurological things especially. So I think in certain cases of, for example, neurological insomnia, where there might be a brain chemical imbalance, something going on, it may prove benefit. And more research, the jury is still kind of out on it. And in some cases, it's been shown to actually make sleep worse. And some people will actually get anxiety on it. And so I think it's a potential option for people, but they definitely should talk to their doctor about it before they just go start taking anything, really. You want to be focused and accurate on what you're taking. That way, you end up just with better results overall.
Let's move on right now and talk about digestive health, Dr. Cogano, and let's talk specifically about the condition called leaky gut. What exactly is leaky gut?
Leaky gut is the general term for something called intestinal permeability, increased intestinal permeability. And what that means is that the enterocytes, or the cells in your small intestine, are slightly inflamed and irritated, and they're allowing larger protein particles of food to get into your bloodstream. And when a big piece of protein gets into your bloodstream, your body's not used to it. It's used to it being broken down to a certain size. So it sees it as foreign, and it starts to kind of attack it, and it can create an inflammatory response called an immunoglobulin response. And that can have widespread systemic effects on the body, meaning you could get anything from rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, acne, to chronic fatigue, to joint pain, to gut pain, to IBS. And so the testing for something like that is, I find, very beneficial to helping people who have a multitude of symptoms, especially those with gut issues like IBS, because irritable bowel syndrome is a diagnosis that doesn't tell anyone what the problem actually is. Most patients come into the office knowing their gut's irritated. So me telling them that they have irritable bowel syndrome does not help anyone. We have to try and figure it out. And one way to figure it out is through a blood test called an IgG blood test that can actually start looking at, maybe what foods is this person sensitive to help them.
So what are some of the effective treatments for leaky gut?
I honestly, the first biggest thing is to try and figure out what foods or what product is irritating their gut and eliminate it. You have to get rid of the cause of the irritation. Sometimes the cause of the irritation is something more severe, like inflammatory bowel disease, like an autoimmune thing, maybe like celiac or heavy metal exposure, perhaps even antibiotics. So you got to get rid of whatever thing is irritating it first, And then you have to start working to heal the gut. And often I use a combination of L-glutamine and a high dose of omega-3, specifically a component in that called EPA, which is an anti-inflammatory. So you want a nice strong anti-inflammatory in the gut, and then you want glutamine, which helps to heal and bind the gut cells back together.
Now, there are many body cleanses in the market today. What do you think of those which claim to really cleanse your liver?
I think that there's overclaim to what a lot of them can do. I think that some will have benefit, but you also have to be careful. I just saw a patient just the other day that did a liver cleanse and ran into some serious issues because her liver didn't need it. And honestly, she even had some liver issues. I think that liver detoxes, and well, she didn't know, right? And so it ended up being an issue. I think you have to be cautious with it, but I think that the general idea behind it is positive. I think really it's meant to, detoxes, especially in the liver, are meant to improve circulations, maybe give your organs a little bit of a rest, improve toxic elimination, because that's what the liver does. So yes, you can absolutely do that. Provide your body with better nutrients, and even just increasing circulation, and really that's what a detox should be all about, is improving health, not depleting the body of a bunch of things.
We talk about alcohol potentially damaging the liver. How about certain foods that may have the same effect?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of different foods that can damage the liver. Certainly you want to make sure that you're eating a healthful diet and a whole foods diet. And I find that the biggest thing is variety in the diet, because the liver itself is like a giant filter. So the more healthy whole foods, antioxidant foods that you're eating, the better it's going to function.
So a lot of berries, blueberries, raspberries, right? That really helps?
Exactly. The nice thing about the liver is it is one of the only things in your body that can regenerate. So if it's down to a quarter functionality, it will regenerate to 100%. But the biggest catch-22 with that is that often what we see is that people that have a liver capacity that's so low, they're often alcoholics or they're drug addicts, or they have issues that they cannot stop. So it often continues the decline. However, if you start treating your body healthfully, then that is one organ that can regenerate.
When is a good time for a detox? Any symptoms to look for that would signal that you need to do a detox? And I'm not talking about drugs or alcohol specifically here.
Oh, yeah. So in terms of timing, often if I'm going to tell a patient to do a detox, because detoxes can be a little bit depleting, often I say spring or summer. I find a lot of people are already extra fatigued in the winter. There's more disease going around, more influenza. And so you want to make sure that you're more boosting your body up in the winter. I think that spring and summer, you're a little bit more energetic. Your body's a little bit better to handle something like that. So timing wise, that's definitely when you want to be doing them. Yeah.
What are some of the benefits of probiotics? There are different doses of probiotics. Now, do you go for one with the most?
No, you have to be careful with probiotics. It's also sort of an area that we don't fully understand yet in medicine. It's a fairly new thing in medicine, probiotics. We know that they're beneficial and they have lots of health benefits, but the microbiome in our gut is extremely complex. And there's certain times where you don't want to take a probiotic. For example, when I'm doing a gut healing protocol for leaky gut, right? I often now don't give a probiotic with it. And the reason is because sometimes people with gut issues also have other things along with it, perhaps candida, which is yeast or fungal overgrowth, or even something else called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. And if the person has those things and we haven't tested them to rule them out, then a probiotic actually would make those conditions worse, and it would actually make the person feel worse. But by and large and in general, a probiotic for most people is safe, it's effective, it can boost up your immune system, and you don't need a massive quantity. A lower dose of probiotic typically is just fine, and you just want a multi-strain. So often you want to replete it with 11 to 12 billion or 11 to 12 different types of bacteria.
Dr. Clayton Cogano, naturopathic doctor in Lethbridge with Well Vitality Health Clinic. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, Hal. Take care.
You too. On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.